Next question. I've been using the emotional guidance scale for a long time, but recently started working much more consistently and more accurately with it, with your continued guidance. A lot of emotions are surfacing, and whereas before I was able to ignore my feelings, recently I find myself articulating my feelings about particular subjects to people close to me, and I feel slightly out of control. I've never really owned my feelings around certain issues like I'm owning them now, because good girls weren't supposed to feel anger or jealousy and frustration. But they are emerging. Is this par for the course? We're going to stop reading the question here for a minute and just answer what's been asked so far. Yes, this is a natural unfolding. Once you begin identifying your emotions and isolating them by focusing on them and placing them on the emotional scale and allowing yourself to really feel them and admitting to them, owning to them. In that process, just that much of it, there is a releasing of split energy that is very, very helpful. And the releasing of that split energy then gives you the clarity to then take the next step. And so, yes, that is par for the course. We'll continue the question here. Other than going to do another run up the emotional scale, is there anything else that you would recommend around the deeper issues? Again, we're going to interrupt the flow of this question and answer. We would not continue to do another run up the scale and another and another and another. In other words, don't turn this into an effort situation. Work with the scale, own what you're feeling, and then just count it as good work as you notice the relief that you feel. We know you do when you acknowledge what you really are feeling. This is a good thing that is coming into your awareness. Esther has noticed that too. There are some emotions on the scale that she at first had a hard time even articulating something about that emotion. Because, like you said, she didn't think it was appropriate for her to be feeling that way. But there are no right or wrong emotions. There are not good or bad emotions. These are indicators. And so acknowledging the indicator is a really good thing. And so we wouldn't keep running up the scale, but we would do it anytime we come into the next awareness or the next awareness that we have some emotion that is prominent. The question goes on, will this process allow me to release some of the excess weight that I have been holding? The answer to that question is yes, but we have to give you a little background here in order for this to make sense to you. We've been talking quite a bit recently about how when life comes at you, ask yourself, where is that situation or subject or topic, where is it landing you on the emotional scale? But of course it's important to point out that since it's always attraction, 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 another, a better way of saying that or asking that of you would be to say, where are you standing on the emotional scale that is causing you to call that piece of life to you, that piece of life that feels like it's coming at you? It feels like it's coming at you, and it is, but it's important to acknowledge the reason that it's coming at you is because your point of attraction is calling it to you. That's an important distinction. You may be noticing, if you've been doing some exercises with this emotional scale, that several things that come up are all landing you in approximately the same vicinity on the emotional scale. We have said something to you like this when you have been in audiences around the world, when we say to you that often when you have 3 or 4 questions, at the heart of them is the same thing. And so this is what we are saying to you here. It's a very common thing for the different topics or subjects or situations of your life to be landing you in similar places on the emotional scale, because after all, you are attracting them from where you are right now. So with all of that in mind, think about where the feeling of excess weight lands you on the scale. Choose something. You may feel like it's overwhelming. Something that we've asked you to do before when you find yourself in a situation that is causing you to feel a certain way. We've asked you to acknowledge, have you been feeling that way? That emotion that you're feeling, is this something that you've been feeling around other topics? And usually, in fact, it's always true, but usually you can figure that out rather easily. You can recognize that, yes, I have been feeling overwhelmed. I have too much to do and not enough time to do it. Or I have felt the burden of too much responsibility. Or even I've been feeling some resentment about others not carrying their fair share. Now, resentment is further down on the emotional scale. It's down there around hatred and jealousy and insecurity. It's right in that mix. Where overwhelmed is further up the emotional scale. It's at 11. Confusion is there. Stress is there. But as you begin to associate the way being overweight makes you feel and how other things have also been landing you on the scale there, before you know it, you begin to recognize that a lot of subjects or topics have been causing you to land there. But don't forget, it's not that they are the cause. It's that you have already landed there and you're summoning more thoughts that feel like that. So, in any case, the remedy is the same. The remedy is to pick your spot, identify it, where did you land, and then just do the work to go up the scale. And now you've made this association that it's not just excess weight that is landing you there. It's too much work or not enough help or a feeling of too much responsibility. And as each of those topics come up, you do the work to move up the scale. Before long, you've improved your point of attraction. Your set point, so to speak, has moved on the emotional scale. And then all of those subjects will shift for you. Also, we've been asking some of you recently to consider this. Let's say that you feel like going and getting something to eat. And you've got it in your hand or on your plate. You're ready to eat it. And you might stop and ask yourself, where does this particular food land me on the scale? In other words, you may discover that you are stress eating. Take a subject like a donut or ice cream and just think about it in your mind. Where does that land you? Or cake or birthday cake. Those subjects may very well land you on joy or freedom or fun. But often you may discover that something that you're eating is landing you at guilt. You feel guilty about eating this. There again, begin to notice. There are other things that you've been feeling guilty about. And usually, you know that insecurity and guilt and unworthiness, those feelings, vulnerability, they're all down there on the same line. We put them at 21. Inadequacy goes there. Lonely goes there. Shame goes there. Think about how people have helped you to assign things to yourself, like you shouldn't eat that. It's inappropriate to eat that. Or it's inappropriate to do that or to think that. In other words, these things all go together. If you're hanging around in insecurity and unworthiness and guilt, then it's logical that you would reach out into the world of food and choose those things that also match that. This is a big conversation that we're having here. And it is our expectation that as you play with this, and be playful with it, don't make work of this, but begin noticing, are you eating this donut and feeling joyful about it? Or are you eating this donut and feeling guilty about it? You can reach the place where what you feel like eating always lands you in a good feeling place on the scale. You could be eating from an emotion of contentment or optimism or positive expectation or enthusiasm. In other words, you don't have to be at war with food. But if you are, it's because you're at war with a lot of things. And mostly, and usually, it's because you are at war with you. You don't like yourself for whatever reason, usually because somebody else didn't. And the reason that they don't or didn't like you is because they didn't like them. It's just a chain of pain that you don't have to live with anymore. We are certain that more questions will come, more clarifying questions about this, and we will address more and more of them as they come. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely. It is taking thought about these things, for sure, beyond where they have been before.